Happy Friday, everybody. Lead meteorologist John Choquette here for our daily 12 p.m. hail forecast on this Friday, sponsored by C3 Group. Check them out. We have a link to their page in the description below. Hope you guys are having a good Friday today. We do have a bunch to talk about. Make sure your notifications are set up before we get into any of that. Notification options on your desktop computer. If you've been watching us more than even a couple times, you guys know what to do. Notification settings. One of your 3 different ways you can get those push notifications, or all 3, combo of the 2, and the notification regions, whether it's a city, area, state, or the entire country. Here is the first thing we're talking about today, and that is we're going over a hail map that happened yesterday afternoon. We had a storm. This was pretty close to the Branson area. Not a ton of houses. However, there was quite a bit of baseball-sized hail. Rockaway Beach, Viburnum, and Birch Tree, Missouri. This is all, again, in the Branson area. Our 3-star maps are meant to be the middle-of-the-road storms. However, we've had not that much activity so far this year, so I know you guys get more excited about them. About 6,200 houses impacted. This is good for some local guys. Again, you see some pictures here. Had quite a bit of hail. The storm was just barely missed Branson off to the north and to the east. So that's what we had yesterday. And with that, with May ending, and it's the first day of June, we're going to talk about the state of the hail season. So basically, where do we stand right now compared to previous years? How well was May? How well did we do the other portions of the year? And just kind of comparing it to years past. So a whole lot of numbers are going to pop up on the screen right now. Eventually. There we go. Here's what we have to date. So far, the year to date, so all the hail we've had so far this year, we've had 2,967 hail reports. That is not the record low, shockingly. But comparatively, last year, at the exact same point we were at 5,212 hail reports. Big difference. We were almost half, or a little less than half of what we had at this point last year. You can see the real cause of that was, January and February typically are pretty quiet, not a big deal. We had a much more active winter last year. February was the record for the most hail reports in the month of February. So that obviously skews the data a little bit. But you can see where the big problem was March and April for us this year. So we had 495 reports in March and only a paltry 529 reports in April. That was very close to the record low. I believe it might have actually been the record low for the month of April. And that's where really the hurt really kind of came in. We had 1453 last year and 1252 respectively in April and March. And that well below average. But I did, at the beginning of the month, I did do our forecast talking about how things were going to turn around, get busier in May. And it took its sweet time. However, the last 10 days, we really went from record lows of all time to really made up some ground. We had quite a bit of activity the last 10 days of May. Unfortunately, and I'll get into this in just a second, the location of where the hail wasn't ideal, but we did end up with only 2 less reports than May of last year. And just to show, the average is about 1722. So we had an above average May, first above average month in the whole stupid year, but we did do that to make up some ground, to make it so we weren't at the bottom of the barrel for the year so far. You can see the year-to-date average. We're well below average, but we're not at the record low. The average is about 3,609 hail reports for right now for June 1st. And these are some years all the way back to 2010. You can see 2016, we had about 1,000 more reports than this year at this point. 2015 was an abysmal year, and we're in the same ballpark as that. We're right around the 3,000 mark. 2014 was a really crappy year, and that is the lowest it's been since in the 2010 era. That might be the valley of this decade of 2,492, but in 2014 June really picked up, so we'll talk about that as well. And then 2013, 12, 11, and 10 all respectively, especially 12 and 11 were extremely active with the number 1 and number 2 years respectively, and of course 2017 comes at number 3. So with all of that, the big question of course is, we had all this activity, did it hit anything? And that's where my other thing pops in of the number of the 4, 5, and 3-star maps. And this is where your attention really goes down to. Yes, obviously the number of big hail report days. Interestingly enough, the vast majority of these days happen in the last 10 days. So we've had 100 plus hail report days. 7 of them happened in the last 10 days. So we really made up a lot of ground. When we were looking at this on May 20th, there was a good chance. I was like, well, unless things really pick up, this may end up being record lows. They picked up quite a bit. Climatology says we were at the busiest time of the year normally. It was much quieter than it normally is this time of year, but it still was busy, especially compared to how garbage this year has been so far. We've had no 200 or 300 report days compared to 2017, where we had 6 and 1 respectively. These are year-end numbers for 17 and 16. However, in 2017, by the end of May, the majority of these days have already occurred. And we're at 250 report plus days and 1,000 plus report days. So very, very few compared to 2,200 plus report days in 2017, and even better than 16, where we had 14. But the big thing, 5-star maps for the total for the year, and this includes some hurricanes. So without hurricanes, we had 11 5-star maps in 2017. Again, the vast majority of them had already occurred. And this year we've had a paltry 3. And 4-star maps, we had 21. Again, the vast majority had occurred at this point. We had 6. And then 77 versus 26. So even when there was a lot of hail in May, a lot of it didn't hit anything. And that is the real story of what's going to happen. And we could end up at record low numbers if June really decides to turn off. But that's not going to happen today. That's not the case. We have, oops, I forgot to put that animation in there. I had a little last second update here. Our forecast today, we have quite a bit of hail possible across a good chunk of the country today. I'm actually going to have to move my computer just out of the way there so you can see everything. I'm going to start off in the east and move west. We do have a chance for some hail, surprisingly in the southeast, where things basically are done, but you still get those little impulses to come in and just throw down an outflow boundary from the activity yesterday. So we have a chance for some storms, especially in Alabama. Unfortunately, it's very hot. The atmosphere pretty far up is warm, so it's going to be hard to get really big hail. But there's a chance we have a couple stronger storms. Could have up to some golf ball size hail. Your best bet's going to be central Alabama. Places like Birmingham, for example, could see some hail today, anytime after about 3 o'clock Eastern time. And those storms will move through. And by the time sunset comes around, these storms will be winding down. Again, Alabama, best bet. But I have a 5% for Atlanta as well. There is a chance we could see some storms in the Atlanta area, and that's going to be after 3 o'clock this afternoon. Storms will be scattered and then become more of a wind threat the later we get into the afternoon and evening. Best bet, Alabama, 10%. Moving further west, we have storms possible along a dry line here. 1, maybe 2 storms will form in this low area, and it's also fairly lacking of people. Up to some tennis ball size hail is possible if 1 or 2 storms can break through that cap today. It's going to be very hot here in Oklahoma and Texas. So if you can get a storm to go, it would have up to tennis ball size hail. And that would be after about 4 or 5 o'clock this evening. The main story, though, the best bet for some hail is going to be here in northern and central sections of Nebraska, where I have a 40% chance for Grand Island. There's going to be big storms that form today. Up to 3.5-inch hail possibles here in the purple area. Again, the big, oops, my phone's not on silent. The big thing to take away from that is we could have some very large hail that's also going to be very wind-driven as well. Storms are going to form pretty much near the South Dakota border, and they're going to race to the south and southeast, and they're going to turn into a complex potential derecho, which is a very strong wind producing bow line of storms that we could also have some very large hail in. And with that, I have a 10% chance for Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska. The big question is going to be, of course, is there still going to be hail being produced as this thing races to the southeast, or are you guys going to get blasted with some strong winds and very little in the way of hail? But again, there's that chance for some hail, 10% there. Much better chance areas like Grand Island, places a little north of there, a little south of there, where you're most likely going to see some big hail. Also going to see some hail further north in the Dakotas, where I know a lot of you guys don't really care. Very few people in North Dakota and this section here of South Dakota, but there's that 10% for Bismarck. Could see some storms drop up to some tennis balls there initially when they form, and after that they're going to kind of turn to a line and move off to the north and east, probably only producing sporadic quarter-size hail. And biggest story here is going to be in Nebraska. Biggest hail up to 3.5 inches, maybe even up towards softball is possible if some storms can really get their act together and drop some big-time hail. If you guys remember 2014, Blair, Nebraska was a similar situation, a supercell that turned into a line. It had 90-mile-per-hour winds with softball-sized hail falling. Something similar could happen today. And there's that outside chance I could make it to Omaha, but I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket. I think we're more likely going to see that further off to the west. Questions about Kansas City. You guys, basically, the storm as it moves to the south and to the east, you could see some quarter-size hail as this complex races south tonight. This will be late overnight, probably after midnight. Again, maybe a pocket or two of quarter-size hail. More likely going to be very little in the way of hail, more rain and wind. And yes, we do need more 5-star storms. Hopefully we can get a couple more in this month coming up here before the year decides we're gonna shut off. But thankfully we also have a risk tomorrow. Maybe we can get a 5-star map tomorrow. If we don't today, there is this chance. So basically with this big system that's going to move through today, it's going to leave an outflow. We're really going to have to wait and see what happens tonight and where everything is tomorrow. If this system just races the southeast, makes all the way to the Gulf, obviously it'll wipe out our whole risk area. But right now it's kind of showing it dying off not too far south of the Iowa-Missouri border. And then storms will form off of that tomorrow afternoon, and it shows them going to the south with something similar where you could see some very large hail somewhere in Missouri. And so basically anywhere between probably Columbia, Missouri, and into central Illinois. We'll have an update for that tomorrow. Again, it's going to be really hard to pinpoint exactly where any of that stuff's going to happen until today occurs, and then we can really kind of zone in on where all the boundaries set up, where we can get storms to form and race to the southeast. But there's the potential we could see some tennis ball size hail, particularly in the St. Louis area. So that's our focus for tomorrow, and maybe even make it down to Memphis. So that's what we're seeing for tomorrow. And then after that, things are going to be quiet for a few days. So I saw a question asked about the Denver area. You're going to have to wait till at least probably midweek next week. There's going to be quite a bit of quiet lack of activity for your Sunday and probably Monday and Tuesday as well. And then things will probably pick up again once we get to midweek. All right, so I'll show you guys the models real quick, show you what we are expecting for today. And after that, we probably will wrap this up. And obviously, we'll do any sort of live coverage if anything does move towards a large city and it warrants that. We haven't really needed it the past couple days. Things haven't hit major population centers. So hopefully we can get that done. Someone asked, is Austin, Texas done for the year? Probably. You guys are way too far south for big time storms. The year, I won't say the year in June. I'll say for the spring and summer. There's always that potential there could be storms in fall. The fall season is basically boom or bust. There's either going to be a bunch of storms or there's nothing at all. Depends on how the hurricane season works out as well. But for right now, I'm saying done till at least the fall season. Here is, do I have a newer version of the HRRR to look at? I do. So I'm going to start in the southeast, show some storms here. You can see this complex of storms will move to the south. They can make some hail, possibly some storms that fire ahead of it. And the storms that will fire ahead of the main complex will have a chance of seeing some golf ball size hail. And it's going to move through Birmingham and the Atlanta areas in the mid-afternoon into the evening hours. And then that will be that. And then I'll move over here to the northern plains, where we'll see storms forming again this afternoon. These are going to be the storms that will be the big time producers of the hail and the wind. Fortunately, this model hasn't gone far enough yet. So I'll move back an hour. And you can see storms race to the south. This big angry line moves to the Omaha area. And this particular run was interesting because it kind of keeps things a little more tilted in a way that could have hail. So if this run were to verify, Omaha could get blasted with some wind and hail. We'll be watching this extremely carefully, of course, and do any sort of live coverage if Omaha does decide to get hit with a big storm today, because there's that risk, especially for wind-driven hail. So that's what we're looking at today. And then tomorrow, again, it's really hard to pinpoint right now anything. We have to see how this all pans out today, and then tomorrow morning we'll have a better idea of what's going to happen. We'll have a video tomorrow at noon going over everything that happens. So if there is no live coverage today, you'll see me again tomorrow at 12 p.m. here on Hail Trace. And make sure you guys follow us on Facebook so you don't miss any of our live coverage. Again, that's not at a set time. That's whenever storms occur. So it's pretty easy to miss those push notifications if you're off doing other stuff, or you're getting lots of calls from your clients because storms are hitting wherever you may work. So that's where the importance of following our page, hitting see first, so that way you can go on your news feed and we pop up right in the top of your news feed, so you can jump right into that live coverage or rewatch some of our live coverage if that does occur, or you miss our forecast video, or just want to see the posts of if we make a 3-star map or better. And any other comments, questions, or concerns you guys may have, give us a call, email us, or visit us on hailtrace.com. And you can message us instant message style through intercom on there to reach out to us for any concerns you may have, any comments, any questions that may not be answered here, or even hail report requests I will be getting on. Anybody who had requests from last night or this morning, I'll be getting onto those after this video is complete. So, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. If I don't see you later on, I'll see you again tomorrow at 12 p.m. Likely going, depending on how tomorrow pans out, I'll likely be at my house for the video. And if not, I'll be here, and that means it might be a little more serious. So, have a great rest of your day. If I don't see you, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Friday. And if you don't tune in over the weekend, I'll have a great weekend as well. Talk to you guys later.